Hey there, Paul from Verbal here. We're building the biggest audio destination on the internet, where audio creators like you can build and monetize their audience. To learn more, all you have to do is visit verbal.com, that's VURBL.com, and sign up as a beta subscriber. While you're on the site, peruse our growing list of podcast reviews to discover your next binge-worthy show. And now, on to Life Transformation Radio.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformation. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 90 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also join our Facebook group, Life Transformation Radio Community, and never miss an episode by subscribing wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, Castbox, the Himalaya app, Google Play Music app, Pandora, and available on our YouTube channel at Life Transformation Radio. If you're interested in sponsoring our show, Life Transformation Radio, please send me an email at Sean, S-E-A-M, at The Success Core, spelled C-O-R-P-S, thesuccesscore.com, and we'll get you the sponsor package emailed to you immediately. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, podcasters, authors, amazing human beings that are impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, give us a call at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. Come and be a part of our show. And with that, please let me welcome to the show my guest today, Alexandra Beepat. Welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Hi, Sean. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited. We were supposed to do this a long time ago. I'm pumped to have you on the show. You are absolutely incredible. I have had the honor of being your friend and mentor, and have seen, so much that you have done over the past year and a half. And we're going to get into some of that, but you are just an amazing, I've learned as much from you as you have from me. And it was absolutely just incredible, the amount of work that you're doing in your community.
I really appreciate that, because sometimes when you're working in the community, you don't really lift your head up high enough to know what's going on. You just keep at it. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. This title of the episode is The Awakened Life with CEO and author Alexandra Beepat. Is the CEO and owner of the Lotus and the Light Metaphysical Center, Lotus Wellness Center, and president of the Manassas Holistic Chamber of Commerce. Provides services in soul alignment coaching, psychic and intuitive assessments, and teaches classes in spiritual, metaphysical, and self-development. She wrote The Awakened Life back in 2014, and it has been published by Balboa Press Publishing and featured twice in the Hay House catalog. Is currently enrolled in the 2020 class of Prince William leadership and was nominated for the 2018 Stellar Woman Award by the Virginia Women's Business Conference and received the 2020 Award for Influential Woman of the Year from Prince William Living Magazine. Uma serves her community by providing opportunities to small, local businesses to expand in free classes and events for spiritual growth and success for the worldwide community. Uma's motto is unleash your mind, unleash your world, because she truly believes that we have the power to create the changes we desire for a happy and abundant life. Her contact info is right there in the show notes at thelotusandthelight.com. Thelotusandthelight.com. Her YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram are right there in the show notes. Connect with her. Send her a friend request. Subscribe to her YouTube channel and let her know that you listened to her episode of Life Transformation Radio. Now, Uma, the first question that I have to ask, and I believe is the most important question that you could ever ask yourself, is why? Why do you do what you do?
That's a very easy answer for me, because the why is the personal suffering we put ourselves through. So I have lived very happily a life that I was able to see both sides of a coin. I've lived in suffering, growing up in a third world country, surviving sexual abuse, living under a dictator for a small amount of time. And then I got to move to America and live the dream, owning my own house, having a business, having children. I got to see both sides of the coin. And one thing that I've noticed in both things is that we as human beings hold ourselves back, because I've seen happiness in poverty and I've seen sadness in wealth. And I realized very quickly that it's not really our circumstances that create the living experience for us. It's how we deal and address with the things that is in our lives. So I didn't really come on this path with that knowing 11 years ago, because I've been doing this for 11 years. It started more with just the desire and the need to serve people and to just help them feel better. So I started as a massage therapist, just really wanting to work with people and just give them something nice, And then it just grew. Mm-hmm. My intuition, my psychic abilities started to come out, and I started to actually give more guidance through readings, and it just all developed to the point where I'm really now a soul alignment coach, just trying to get people to reconnect to their inner joy and their happiness, because my why is really focused on relieving the suffering that we put ourselves through. All those times we go through hard things and we can't let go of it. We have regrets. We blame ourselves. I want to work on that, and I want to release people from that.
I love it. I do want to say, because there are those out there, mm-hmm. I was one of them when I was younger, that when someone is psychic, they're not going to predict lottery numbers. That's not how it works. Let's just get that out of the way, right? The myths and oh, you're psychic? Well, tell me what I'm thinking. No, it doesn't. Come on. It's not a magic show. It's, and I had to learn, and I learned from you kind of the intuitive and the what about the psychic abilities and kind of where it comes from and what that mean and how do you develop it and all that stuff. I learned a lot of that from you. Mm-hmm. But that what you do really, truly helps people. It really, truly does.
Yeah, it does. I've had recently with the whole COVID-19 happening, I have one of the parts of my psychic ability is mediumship, where I communicate with people on the other side, and one of the unfortunate things that I've had to do was actually bring through communications for people who passed due to COVID-19. And I've had to help. It's been a very harrowing 3 months, because nobody's going to come to you and say, hey, my dad passed from COVID-19. Can you give me a reading? They just come to you and say, hey, I'd like to connect with people on the other side. So I've been blessed within these past 3 months to actually fill in stories for people, to fill in things that they didn't have anything. I had this one woman who just came for a mediumship reading. We didn't know what was going to happen. Her mom came through. And she said, well, that can't be. My mom and I have been estranged for over 30 years. I don't know if she's living or dead. And her mom said, I will give you proof. And that week, she found her mom's obituary. And her mom did pass a month ago, as I predicted in the reading, that she had passed recently, and she wanted to come and share information to fill in for her, you know? So things like that, I know people want to know, how do you do it? I don't know. You know, it's an ability I've had since I was a child. And the only thing I do know is that it brings a lot of comfort to people who see me, because it's able to heal some of that grief that they've had. Because this particular person, her mother abandoned her when she was a child, you know? And then, again, unbeknownst to me, she apparently sent her sister to me. I didn't know because it was weeks apart, and both of the people had different last names. I didn't know. And I gave the same exact reading for her sister, and same exact details and everything. Now, I can't remember that, right? When you're doing, 10, 20 readings a week, you don't remember who you read for or whatnot. So it was very healing for that family. And, I respect people's caution and, curiosity, or that's not the word I'm looking for, but I respect people's, what's the word?
Their apprehension, if you will. That's
it. Yeah, their apprehension of what I do. And I completely 100% understand that. And I know that I'm not the person for a lot of people. There's many people that don't get psychic readings or intuitive consultations or spiritual assessments, and I'm okay with that. I just ask that we all be like a polite community. And if you don't like what I do, that's fine. Just move on. But there's no need to come after me or hurt me with your words, if you will.
Yeah. It's so pointless. Like, just because you don't believe doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It's like, It's like, I don't know. I guess maybe I grew up because I had kids, and you cannot sit there and be like, oh, whatever, that's fake. Like, you can't, like, psychic abilities are fake. Bro, you just told your 2-year-old that Santa dropped off presents. Get out of my face. Like, you can't, like, your argument's toast. Your argument's toast. If you don't believe, stop telling your kids that Santa exists then. Like, give me a break.
Well, you know what's funny, Sean? It's that sometimes I get non-believers that come to me for services because guess what happens? Life happens. And then somebody that's important to them passes on.
Yep.
And even though they have non-belief in what I do, that desire, to connect with someone is there. And then they'll reach out to me, and then I'll do a reading, and I'll bring through their loved one, and and that's the closure that they need. I always tell people who book me for a reading, like, don't tell me who you want to talk to, because especially if you have doubts or you're cynical about it, don't tell me who you want to talk to. Let me just tune in. Let me just see who's there. And, the way spirit work works, it's interesting. You can't command a spirit person. Like, if you want to talk to your grandma, I can't tell your grandma, be here at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, June 17th. I can't do that. That's why it's very interesting with mediumship readings. I just tell people, this is how my process is. We'll tune in. We'll see who's there. I'm happy to bring through messages for you with evidence. And then, we'll take it from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, this, like, it works. This is a real thing. So if there's any skeptics out there, just, you know what? Open mind, right?
That's
this
pretty
show
much
is all about transformation, right? Transformation. With this in mind, talk about your transformation. What was a transformational moment that changed your life and put you on the path to what you're doing today?
Yeah. There's been many transformational moments for me, as I'm sure everybody has experienced this in their life. But for me, it was really because, again, I work very closely with spirits. And I like to use the word spirit because I like to honor everybody's belief system. Some people call it the universe. Some people call it God. Some people call it angels. I'm okay with all the names, but I do believe in a higher power, okay? Whatever name people want to call it by, that's A-okay with me. So I have a very strong connection with spirit ever since I was a child. Spirit's been with me. Let's just say for the grand viewership, we call it God, right? God has been in my life very strong since I was a child. I would literally take walks with God. You know, I would have conversations. He for me, when I was growing up, was like a papa. He was like just a father that I can go to whenever I had problems and situations and stuff like that. So as I was going through all the turmoil in my life, living the life that I've lived, I would always turn to him and just have conversations with him. I never felt I had to go to a priest or somebody else to talk to him. He was just always there. And I remember when it was a couple days before I turned 30. And usually when I talk to Papa, right, I talk to him in my head. But a morning, a few days before my 30th birthday, one morning I got woken up with a voice, his voice, outside of my head. And he literally said, "The time for playing is over. It's now time to work." And I got down on my knees out of my bed. I put my hands in the air. Yeah. I got down on my knees. It was like something invisible was moving me, right? And I got down on my knees. I put my hands in the air and I said, "I know nothing. Teach me everything." And he said, "And so it shall be." After that, everything's been a miracle. He just kind of like worked through me. So basically I got I call it the knowings, so these little messages you get in your head. So I got this knowing to go and look through a box of papers. And when I did, I found a scholarship fund. You see, back in 2001, I believe, I was in AmeriCorps. I was working in Philadelphia. I wasn't paid for the whole year. I took a stipend, and basically I was an HIV prevention specialist. So at the young, tender age of 20 or 21, I had to test people for HIV. I had to work with prostitutes and LGBTQ community. I did a lot of education and testing and also delivering news that people had AIDS, right? So it was a very traumatic year for me. You're young and to see, all of that. It was very traumatic. But we didn't get paid, it being AmeriCorps. We got a scholarship. Well, the scholarship that I found in that box was due to run out that year, which was 2008. And this was, again, Spirit telling me, "You need to use this." And I said, "Use this for what?" And they said, "No worries, we'll give you messages." That day, I got 3 messages about massage school. I got a mailer in my mailbox. I saw a TV ad, and then I had a friend just randomly call me and told me, "You really should think about becoming a massage therapist." So I said, okay. I called up a school that, this is how easy it works. I called up a school that was local to us. I went in on that Wednesday. They said, "You're in luck. We're starting a class on Friday." It's a 1-year program. It starts on Friday. It's every other weekend. So I'm home with my kids during the week while my husband worked at that time. He's off on weekends. So it's every other weekend. It starts on Friday. And I'll never forget, it was January 19th, 2008, because it was the day of my 30th birthday. And I didn't actually have to pay anything because the scholarship covered all of it. So that was a transformational moment for me.
Wow.
In that I learned that when I just listen to Spirit and I just lean in and I just trust and have faith that they were going to take care of me no matter what I wanted to do. And then once you do that one time, it becomes easier to do it a second time, a 5th time, a 30th time, So that was very transformational for me.
Wow. Wow. Very, very cool. I kind of wrote my book like this. In 2016, I'd gotten away. I was raised Roman Catholic. Didn't really believe in it. Like, why do I have to sit in a box talking to a dude when God says that he's always there? So just confess to me. Why am I confessing to a dude? Just a lot of stuff that I didn't agree with in the Catholic faith, right? Nothing wrong with whatever they believe. I just don't believe their stuff.
Right.
So I joined the military and I got away from God, and I'm like, it's all God's fault that life sucks, and, it's whatever. And only he picks and chooses who blesses who and this, that, whatever. And So in 2014, I started going back to church, and then life started being awesome, and I started, I think I was more spiritually mature at that point.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the night, couldn't breathe, many, 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 many thoughts running through my head, many, 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 many thoughts. I'm like, I gotta write this down. I have to write this down. I started just writing things down. I'm like, wow, I remember when I was like 4 years old, and this is crazy. Well, and my uncles and aunts, and I remember my grandparents, right? And I'm like, this is so weird. I couldn't breathe. I was just gotta keep a journal sitting by the bed, started writing stuff down. Looking at the next morning, I had written all over the page. None of it was clear. Some stuff was sideways, and I was just frantically writing in the dark. So then, like a week later, the same exact thing happens. Same exact thing. I wake up, cannot breathe. Someone's standing on my chest. I feel myself getting up out of bed. I am freaking out, and I have all these thoughts. What about the kids? What about this? What about the time 10 years ago when I was in the military? On this one deployment, and it was just like so fast. It was like movie shots, like running through my mind, and I can see things, and I was feeling things I hadn't felt in a long time, and I was feeling the anger watching my mom get beat up by our stepdad. I remember the car rides, to and from like grandparents' house. I remember staying in my grandparents' basement. I remember moving all those times. I remember, friends that didn't make it back home from a deployment. I remember, there's so much stuff that I was remembering, and I was feeling it too. As I saw it, I felt it. Started writing things down. And then a couple of days later, I was looking at meditations, and I pretty much had a book. I literally pretty much had a book. And then I prayed on it, and I meditated on it. I'm like, what was this? Never happened again. It was just those 2 times. It never happened again. Yeah. But a book came out of that. And I knew, I was like, man, this is something from God. This is something, right? Well, the book comes out, started writing it in like March, April of 2016. Book releases September 1st. I give it to the pastor. He comes back to me a couple weeks later. He's like, man, holy crap. Okay, we're going to do a sermon series on this. It's going to be amazing, whatever. So our church did a complete sermon series on the transformative powers of God. It was what are the So he actually went into Scripture, found out all the miracles Jesus did, like all the whole teachings. And I was like, this is it. Like this was meant to be, right? So when you're talking about like getting out of bed and you're on your knees and hands in, you're like, I don't know, and like I'm totally resonating with that. It's literally how my book was written.
And that's how I wrote my book too, because I was waking up at 3:00 in the morning. And by 11 o'clock in the morning, I had written out the whole structure of the book, how many pages it was going to be, the names of the chapters, and I had already finished the introduction on chapter 1. And within 2 weeks, I finished the whole book, which is The Awakened Life. And, the funny thing is that when we write from spirit, we're not writing for ourselves. We're writing for a message that needs to be conveyed. And when I wrote The Awakened Life, in the introduction, I say, I'm not looking for any fame or fortune. I just need to touch one person with this book. And whatever I wrote about, it makes a change in your life. And I put my, it's my old email address that's in there. I have to probably contact the publishers and change that. But I put my email address in there because I was just kind of like, I'm going to self-publish on Amazon and see what happens. It was on there for a while until Balboa Press picked it up. And, I've had many people that have written to me and told me, I need you to know I felt like you wrote this book for me. But the very, very first one that came to me was all the way from England. I don't know how this woman heard about me, but she got my book off of Amazon, read it, and she was the first person to write me and say, I need you to know this book touched me. It changed my life, and I needed to read it. I needed to see it. So that to me was confirmation again from Spirit that when we're just trusting and we're following this path, that we don't have to worry because they have a bigger idea of what they're trying to do, and we just have to really be obedient and follow through with it and not question too much about what this is all about.
That's it.
We rarely get the answers while it's happening. We get the answers after the fact.
Yep. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And they always say that life is the only place where you get the test first and the lesson later.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And that's where I work with my students. I keep trying to tell them, like, relax into this process. You don't need to figure it out. You don't need to know why. Just relax into it. Trust what you're feeling, you're sensing, you're knowing, and then later on, you'll get the answers. You know.
Everybody wants to know the why, though. The why is what justifies the way you're feeling. If you think about it, and I don't know exactly what you teach them, but in my own thinking, and when I'm just, I don't know if you want to call it analytical or just really just clearly just what do I think and feel and believe about this, I just think that like exactly what I said. You know, it's so faith is faith can come in many different ways, but like you're talking about the process, it's the overcoming of doubt, and sometimes the why will justify the reason why we feel what we feel. It's why I ask that the first question I wake up every morning is this: okay, what is my why today, or has it changed, right? Yeah. But sometimes we're like, well, why is this happening to me? It's almost like we're looking for the justification of why this happened. Is this bad thing or good thing? Because sometimes people don't believe that good things didn't happen to them. Like, why me? Like, why do I deserve it? And what did I do? You know? Well, nothing. You're just an awesome person and you deserve it, right? And they're like, well, I didn't do anything special. Like, what, you got to win a war? Like, what are you talking about? Or they say, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, why is this happening to me? I'm a good person. Like, and they want to know the why, either because they want to get changed in some way, or they want to justify the way that they are feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing is,
my own opinion.
The why, the why. Now, your why, like when you ask your guests to come on here and explain your why, understand that we can answer our why because we've had time to reflect upon it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of still in the same genre of what I'm talking about, is that I didn't know my why when I started, you know, and I became a massage therapist. I didn't know the why then. But 11 years later, after working on 10,000 people in sessions, I know my why, you know. I very much know my why. But I think when people are now, that those that are starting their spiritual development and stepping on that spiritual path to answer those questions, who am I? Why am I here? What is this about? When they want to know the why, it's coming from an egoic place. Because the ego is saying we need to have a reason for doing what we do. And that is something that I'm helping people unlearn. Because a lot of what I do, it's kind of like, you want to think about what I do like a mystery school, okay? It's like people come, they take classes, they do self-development, they learn about metaphysical things like chakras and angels and energy and all that kind of good stuff, natural laws, universal laws, they learn about all of that. And in doing that, they start to unfold the layers of the onions about themselves. So the classes that I do are set up as, say, classes. But what it really is, it's helping them to find out who they are at their core. So when people come to me and say, Uma, I don't know why I'm here, I like to answer with, neither do I. You know, when you think about my journey, I thought when I stepped on this path 11 years ago, I thought I was going to become a massage therapist. I am the furthest thing from, I don't even do massage anymore. You know, I'm a spiritual teacher.
Wow.
I'm a psychic mediumship mentor. I'm a soul alignment coach. Is this my why? In the moment it is, but what's going to happen to Uma 20 years from now? Who's Uma going to be 20 years from now? I could be a politician. I could be a completely just an author, you know? We don't know. But if we allow ourselves to just enjoy this journey and this unfolding, because your soul is like, it's like an onion, and you keep peeling the layers back until you get to that center. And when you look at an onion, when you get to that center, one, it doesn't smell as bad as the outer layers do. And it's just really, you know, it's pure white. It's innocent. It's pure. It's soft, right? And that's where I'm trying to get people to go, is to get that level of vulnerability and honesty and authenticity, so that when they live from that place, Sean, then life just becomes so delicious. Because it's less about the cons and the money and the career or the relationships. It's more about, how do I feel day to day, and what am I doing to make myself feel good every day?
Yeah, I could totally resonate with that. Absolutely. I completely believe. What I loved about what you talked about, especially what really stuck out to me, is our why is maybe reflected on a little bit. Like, we think about it. It's at the forefront. It's like, okay, but that's only because we're self-aware now.
Yeah.
Maybe before we weren't. We had to learn it somehow.
Right.
But we all go through that transformation. And I love what you talked about in your transformation. And I've seen the transformation. I talked about it today, as a matter of fact. We had a conversation about the way the world is. We had a conversation about college. And we were talking about, progressing in our life and progressing in careers. And, we don't care about the same things we did as a, like you said, a 20-year-old. Right? When you're 22 or 25, you may or may not have kids. Let's say you don't have kids. You pretty much pick up and go whenever you want to, and that's the life. And, you take a little bit more risks, and you're like, college, whatever. I don't care about college. College is stupid, whatever. 35, maybe now you have kids, and you're like, okay, I know I'm a little bit more wiser now. I know that's not a good idea. And the drinking and the partying, and like, that's probably not a good idea. And, maybe college isn't so bad, and maybe I kind of want my kids to do that, or I don't know. And like you're gonna make decisions based on not only the moment, but your past experience. And there's a lot of people out there that talk about, well, let go of your past, let go of your past. And I'm sure that you talk a lot about that. You had mentioned something about that earlier. It's not that you forget your past or put it behind you or whatever. It that has something to do with like pain and hurt and tragedy and trauma, and make sense of it all. But using our past and what we know, we can make pretty good decisions, number one. But number two, when you talk about, and I really want to talk about this, the awakened life. In my mind, when I hear about the awakened life, here's what I'm thinking. I'm not talking about, I'm so woke, like all that crap. I'm talking about enlightenment. And when I say enlightenment, it's probably going to be because I'm not certified, and like you're the amazing one. Like you're the subject matter expert. When I think of like enlightenment, I think of like an awakened life. It's like, am I making good decisions? Talk about law. Yeah. Am I in the law of attraction for me, or am I just saying, well, I'll do for you if you do for me? And that's not law of attraction. That's not serving. Right. People think that's serving. Well, I'm going to help you, and then I'll get something. Like, no, you don't get nothing in return. Serving, literally, and living an awakened life is you being in tune with what your body's telling you, whether it be your hurt, your pain, your sickness, whatever. Because our bodies do tell us when we're getting sick. They tell us if something's not right. I mean, you just know. You know your body. Like, something doesn't feel right. Like, I should probably go get a doctor, go get it checked out. In addition, you're making those good decisions, and you're using your past. Like, okay, I can feel it. Like, I know for me, if I walk into a situation, I'm like, I've been here before. This is not going to end well, right? Like, you just know, right? So that, to me, is an awakened, enlightened. I'm knowledgeable. I'm emotionally aware. I'm self-aware. Emotional intelligence is huge. But how do you define an awakened life?
Good question, because I actually make a distinction between the awakened life and the enlightened life. In fact, that's my third book, because I'm working on my second book right now.
It's like I read your book. Just say it. It's like I read it.
Yeah, I think you did too a while back. So I wrote The Awakened Life. That was back in 2014. I'm now working on a second book. And my third book is actually going to be called The Enlightened Life.
Oh, very cool.
And there's a difference. Yeah, there's a difference, because the awakened life is when you're beginning. So in The Awakened Life, I just shared about the struggles I experienced when I had my awakening. And on the spiritual community, we call an awakening that wake-up call that you get. It usually happens and coincides around that midlife crisis that people have. And there's some truth to that. We do have a midlife crisis, because we wake up. We say, wait a minute, I'm not on the path I want to be. And that's our soul talking to us, our soul who's lived many, many lifetimes. And for most of us, we really aren't very conscientious adults. From the minute we hit 18, we're very much living for the moment,
right.
living for, the thrills and everything else. So we all have this midlife crisis or this awakening where we look around and then we say, I am in a loveless marriage, so we get divorces. Or we say, I'm in a career that I hate, so we start a new career path. And on the spiritual level, the thought that goes through is, I've been living for myself, and I really want to do something outside of myself for the community. And that's when you see community service come in. You see people create like the podcasts or write blogs or create classes or just do things that's outside of themselves. So when I wrote the book, The Awakened Life, I really wrote it for my clients and students because every person that was coming to me was literally in that age category between 35 to 55, and they were experiencing these awakenings. And they were feeling different. They looked the same on the outside, but on the inside, they felt different. And they were struggling with that because they didn't want to do girls' happy hour on Friday night. They actually really wanted to stay home and read a book. They didn't really want to be married to this person anymore who was ignoring them for the past 20 years. They wanted to taste love again and not feel guilty about that. So they were struggling with all these issues they were feeling, and they were feeling like bad people. And especially when they come from a strict background, whether it's a religious background or cultural background, the pressure was even more to conform. So when I wrote my book, it was with that in mind. I was sharing from my personal view what my personal awakening was like and how, I was very much in the Christian community, and there's a chapter on there about a woman and I having a discussion because she felt like since I left the church, I left Jesus too. And I'm like, no, I don't think we've broken up. I think we still have a relationship,
Right.
I had to have really hard discussions with a lot of people because I just went so far out of their mirror that they couldn't understand who I was or what I was doing or how I was worshiping. So that's the awakened life. And for me, an awakened life is just that moment you hit when you realize you want something completely different in your life. This is not what you thought your life was going to be. You don't want to be here anymore. You want to figure something else out. That's the awakening.
Love it. Love it. Talk about your Lotus Wellness Center and how you elevate the world around you.
So it's called the Lotus and the Light Metaphysical Center now. We changed the name. After 10 years of being Lotus Wellness Center, we changed it to the Lotus and the Light Metaphysical Center. I elevate the world around me by encouraging people to seek the truth within themselves and by giving them the resources to speak out on that truth. So we have a lot of classes online now because of the whole COVID-19. So many of my classes people can still access online. And then in person that are about metaphysical development. So we have like the deprogramming classes is what I like to call it, where we do things like the violet flame meditation or mantra, things to deprogram us from our old beliefs. Then we have like the ascension classes where we focus on uplifting and soul, like evolving from a soul perspective. So we focus on what this world is really like according to metaphysics and natural law. So we have like a lot of different things. I have mentorship programs and whatnot. And how I help evolve my community is, first of all, I do a lot of free events. So anybody who finds me, I'm always doing a free talk, a free class, a free meditation, and then I do my paid events for those that want to go deeper and go further. So I serve my community by providing free events, because I don't ever want people to say, well, I can't really participate in this because I don't have money. And then I have other events and coaching and things like that for people that want to take it further. That's what I'm doing. I'm also very much an activist, and I'm very much an activist on pretty much anything that is not for equality. So I'm in definitely the Black Lives Matter.
Right.
I'm in women's rights. I'm in LGBTQ rights. People with disabilities rights. I'm just, I'm just helping shed light on all these situations that are happening in our world, and I use my social media platform for that, to speak on these things and to speak for people who really don't have a voice or can't have a voice, and I just lend my voice to their cause.
Love it. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world today. There's just, I think more than ever, because of social media, and you just can't hide. You're going to get smoked out. It's just the way the world works now.
I like to say we have 20/20 vision now. We see everything.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, you see, but with that, where did the intolerance come from? We're not willing to sit and have a conversation about how Black Lives Matter is awesome and it's not disrespectful to All Lives Matter, but that it is disrespectful because All Lives Matter in that whole debate. But then why is it okay to say Black Lives Matter but not okay to say Blue Lives Matter? But then why is it okay?
Yeah.
Like, I got called a fascist the other day. Literally, I got called a fascist because I joined the U.S. military. I'm a fascist and I believe in fascism. Like, you don't even know what fascism is. Get away from me. You're 18. Get the hell away from me. You don't even know what fascism is. like, so, let me tell you some stories of countries that I've been in. Let me tell you what I've had to deal with. Right? Oh man. I
think it's very polarized right now because there is a term going around about white fragility, and the term pretty much speaks out about you can talk about racism with any other culture in the world, but you can't talk about it with white people because the thing is that they feel personally attacked, and that's where I talk about again having to work through people's own triggers. Sure. I clearly am a woman of color. So when I talk about Black Lives Matter, I get the majority of my white community, meaning people that I know that are white, that are in my community, are very supportive. And because they, on a deeper level, know that this does not apply to them in terms of they have not been racist. They don't have these, racist things or whatnot. The people that I find that are reacting may not themselves be racist, but they may know of a family member, or they may have been around when they've had a racist joke or something like that, and they're feeling guilt about it.
Yep.
So my thing is like address the guilt within yourself. Nobody's judging you. There's no judge and juror here. Just address that within yourself, heal it, and then come lend your voice to this cause. The only thing I'll say about All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter, there's nothing wrong with it, but here's the thing. It was not born of itself in a vacuum, okay?
Right.
Black Lives Matter was a statement that was made by the black community in response to the unnecessary deaths of black people.
Pretty sure it started in Ferguson. That's like literally when it started was in Ferguson.
Right. When they started with Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter was then created in opposition to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So when people say all lives matter, what I'm trying to educate them on is what you're actually saying is you're opposing Black Lives Matter. And what we're trying to say is all lives can't matter until we make sure Black Lives Matter. So it wasn't just a term that was around forever. It was literally created in opposition to what the black community was doing. And I have a friend, he said it really well. He's a white gentleman, and he said, if my wife is hurting and she comes to me and she's had a bad day and she's hurting and she says to me, I love you. If I say to her, I love everyone, it's not going to answer to her need and her pain and her desire for me to be there for her. What she wants to hear is, I love you too. And that's where I think the outcry is coming from the black community is not so much about the words. It's about, do you love us or not? Are you going to stand with us and help us bring justice and bring equality? We just want to be treated equally. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're always talking about reparations, and they're always talking about all this other stuff that, oh, man, we need to, say we're sorry and, whatever. I'm like, if anybody gets the right to riot, I'm literally being serious. If anybody is allowed to tear down a city, it would be like the Navajo. They were
Yeah.
wiped
Yeah.
out of North America. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? You know,
There's
I
this
don't know.
famous
I'm with.
There's this famous post
Yeah.
going around, and I just want to mention this about the rioting because it's really good to see things in context. And there was a post of a woman that was protesting. She was pregnant. She's visibly pregnant, and she had a sign up, and she said, "If my son did not come home because he was killed over a bag of Skittles or killed because of, you know, his neck was crushed," and like she's listed several things, you know. She said, and then I find out that he called out my name while he was dying. He called for his mom while he was dying. I would burn this effing city down. And I think that was so poignant because it shows just that's the emotion. That's the emotion right there. For this white woman to stand there, a pregnant white woman with her unborn child, and for her to say, I understand why the anger and why the emotions and why the frustration, because I don't even, my child's not even here. And if I know he's dying by the hands of somebody else and he called out for his mama, I would burn this whole city down. And that's the truth of it. At the end of the day, we're all human. And we have emotions and we have daughters and sons and mothers and fathers.
Oh, yeah.
And until we can put ourselves in that context, if you can see your father under the knee of a police officer and not get enraged, then more power to you. You know, but if you can see your mother, your father, your son being crushed by a police officer's neck, and then you feel some type of rage about that, then that just is a little modicum of understanding of what the black people in the communities are feeling.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What a great way to end the show. There is so much more I'm sure we could talk about. It is absolutely a trying time right now, and we need positivity. We need to talk about these things. And, you know, I've heard people give a lot of different reasons and answers and ways to do things, but I just say, look, until everybody loves everybody, this is what we're going to be faced with. You know, until everybody loves everybody. I think that we're on the way. If you think about the generations, my grandparents, kind of racist. My parents and aunts and uncles and stuff, maybe a little bit less. Me and my generation people, I don't look at real. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was cultured. You know, being in the military, I've been to a lot of different countries and continents. I just kind of love everybody, you know what I mean? But I also won't judge people. And I know a lot of people that are my age, they have opinions on things, and you live your life how you want to live your life. I'm not judge and jury. More power to you. I just won't support you. And, you know, that's that. And, you know, whatever. My 17-year-old, on the other hand, you know, is a little more sensitive. And my 13-year-old sees what's going on, and she's like, yeah, cops are bad. I'm like, no, cops are not bad. That is bad. So it seems to me that we're combating stereotyping with stereotyping, which to me is wrong. Right. You can't combat hate with hate. That's what they're doing. You can't combat stereotyping with more stereotyping. You can't say all cops are bad. That's like saying, well, this black guy robbed a store, so all black people are bad. Like, no. Doesn't work that way. You can't say, well, that white guy is, you know, a racist, so all white people are racist. No, it doesn't work that way. You can't combat stereotyping with stereotyping. Trying to explain it to my children has been daunting.
We can combat stereotyping with conversation. I have a good friend, Tony. He is in the sheriff's department. He's an older white gentleman, and we've had some really great conversations. He is a great guy. You know, he's a sheriff. He's a great guy. I know he's upstanding. I know he's a good police officer. And, you know, that's what people need to hear is that exactly what you said. We can't combat stereotype with stereotyping. What we can do, though, is we can have conversations with people and not just assume. Just assume that because you're black, you're a thief. Because you're brown, you're a terrorist. Because you're a police officer, you're bad. I agree with you. But it takes people, again, having to come out of their comfort zone and saying, I'm really open to having this conversation. I'm really open to be vulnerable and telling you what I feel about you. And then the other person has to be open as well and say, that hurts my feelings that you feel that way about me, but let me tell you who I am and let me tell you what I'm about.
Yeah.
But nobody's having these honest conversations because really and truly we weren't taught to do that. We weren't taught to talk to each other. We were taught to ignore, distract, move on, you know. So there's definitely a lot of change that we have to bring about. It's not going to be like something one and done. They're calling this a revolution. You know, they're equating this to like big things that have happened throughout life, like the riot acts of 1968 and stuff like that. And they're saying this is the next revolution we're having. And what I try to tell people is feel proud. And then don't think about where you are right now with your feelings. Think about 10 years from now. Think about 30, 40 years from now when your children and your grandchildren say, oh my gosh, Dad, I read in the history books about the big actor law or whatever of 2020. Where were you? What were you doing? How do you want to respond? Because the thing is this is divisive. Either you're with the movement or you're not with the movement. And years from now, it's going to be remembered, and people are going to be asking, where were you on this? I know for me, I want to make my children, my grandchildren proud, and I want to say I was fighting with every breath I had to bring about equality for Black people. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. And then, I had a woman on the show a while ago, and we were talking about, equality and everything, and I said, so when is it the women's turn to have equality? It took forever to get them, voting rights and everything else, but women are still making 84 to 89 cents to the dollar according to what men's pay is. So when do we have equal women's pay and equal, all that stuff? When do we start writing for that?
Yeah, someone brought that up to me because they did say exactly that. They're like, you're protesting for Black Lives Matter. You're a woman. Why aren't you protesting for women's rights? I'm like, oh, I do. When, that crazy state tried to pass the anti-abortion bill, I was loud and proud about it, and I was trying to arrange my house to be like a halfway station if anybody needs to stop and spend the night while they get an abortion. I'm on all these fronts. But what people don't understand is until we break down at least one barrier, we cannot address the other barriers because it's then we're dividing our energy and dividing our power. My thing is, let's all rally for the sake and the cause of Black people. Let's end this. Let us create equality for them. Let's do away with systematic racism, right? Systemic racism. Let's do away with it. Let's bring the equality and justice they need. And then we fight the other fight, which is then the women's or the LGBTQ or the people with disabilities. But we do it together, right? We do it together. Yeah. But to talk about literally a house that is not burning right now while this one is burning, it doesn't make sense. I am a woman. Women are treated unfairly and unequally here in America. It does happen. But am I raising up for that cause right now? No, that house is not on fire. There's not women losing their lives because of this inequality. We're being treated crappy, but we're not losing our lives. Let's heal this Black community. Let's show up for them. Let's be there for them. And then once this is done and put away with, then let's turn our attention and we see how the movement can work. And we turn to other things. Right. We can do it.
Hopefully do it. Hopefully not wearing those crazy hats that they were wearing last time. That was nuts. Like, what are you doing? Can't take you serious for wearing that stuff. Oh, man. Yeah, I wish more had the mentality of like my mentality, as in, for example, I am pro-equality, pro-women's rights. I am also pro-life in the sense that I, Sean Douglas, think abortion is wrong. However, I will never, ever tell a woman what she can do with her body. That's like telling me, that's like I don't like how you parent. I don't like the car you drive. I don't like the way you spend money. I don't like the way you live your life. Who does that, right? So people are like, oh my God, abortion's wrong. I think it is, but I'm not going to tell nobody how they can live their life. I'm not going to tell another woman like, oh, you're a bad person, you should get an abortion. Who am I to judge, first of all? Secondly, I don't really care what other people do. I sit in my life, in my beliefs. I parent my children according to what I believe. However, we do have those conversations. What does abortion mean? What does Black Lives Matter mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? What does it mean to be racist? What does it mean to be? And I tell them about don't be intolerant, as in listen to what people are trying to tell you. Don't be like, oh, my life matters and I don't care about you. Like, no, like I'm pro-life or I'm pro-choice and nothing else matters. You guys are all horrible people. Like that's the generations earlier to us are doing. If you think about like government and like old people, that's what they do. I believe this and you all suck. Like that's not the world anymore.
What we find in history, what we find is that many people love to offer opinions on things they know nothing about. That's just 100%. Been the history of the world. So men offering opinions on women's bodies, not knowing anything about that, it's just an opinion. Women offering opinions on men's bodies is just that. It's an opinion. So that's why, like, when people say to me things like, you know, why are you supporting abortion and this and that? I'm like, that's just my opinion, that a woman has a right to do with her body what she wants to do. You know, and then they're like, well, don't you believe in God or religion? And I'm like, well, the God that I follow is, you know, pretty okay with people doing what they want to do. But if she believed in a God that, you know, meted out retribution for that, then that's between her and God. Still, again, does not involve you. Still, again, does not involve you. That's a private conversation between her and her God. So the thing is like, as we grow in awareness, we have to keep reminding ourselves that everything I feel, especially what I feel so strongly about, is just my opinion. It is not truth. It's not God's truth. It's not the law. It's just an opinion. And people get too tied to the opinions, you know? Mm. So until people can really reach the place of having conversations and saying, you know what, Sean, I respect your opinion, but that's not my opinion, and that's okay. We can still be friends. I respect your right to have that opinion. We're not going to see a lot of growth in the community. But we have people that really want to force other people to believe what they believe. And that's a very real problem. That's a very real problem.
I think that's the problem. Because it's not that people believe that abortion's wrong or this is wrong or, you know, this is racist or this is, you know, whatever. I think it's you don't believe what I believe, so screw off. And you're wrong and you're a horrible person. That's what I see. I don't see the, well, why do they think it, right? It's like I said, it's the intolerance of it. It's not even the act of abortion. It's the, how can you think that that's okay? Or how do you believe that that's okay? It's the belief system, I think, that people are really having a problem with. Wait a minute. What do you mean you're like, you have a husband, but you're a guy and you believe in same-sex marriage? Like, how do you think that that's okay? That's, I think, what it's not about the same-sex marriage. It's not about gays. It's why do you think that that's okay? I think that that's the reason, just in my opinion, why people have an issue with gay rights and women's rights and, you know, race and like all this stuff. It's why do you believe differently than me? Like, you guys suck, right? I mean, it's just my opinion.
When you go back, and when you go all the way down that rabbit hole, what you find is that people's beliefs and opinions usually tie to their identity. And if you don't know who you are, you have now become undone. So when people say something that is opposing their belief, essentially what they're hearing is, you're telling me I don't exist. And that's where the anger,
or my opinion doesn't
the
matter.
rage. Right, my opinion doesn't matter.
People
which
just want to be
means
heard.
My life doesn't matter. Right, my opinion doesn't matter, which means my life doesn't matter because I've tied my opinion and my belief to my identity, and that's where you see the rage come out. How dare you tell me I'm invisible? And that's what people have to understand. Your opinion is just your opinion. It is not who you are. It is just an example of your programming. Because here's the truth of it. We have all been programmed. When we are born, before we even scream, it has already been decided our race, our ethnicity, our culture, our socioeconomic status, our nationality, these things have already been decided for us before we even take our first breath. And then the craziness of it is we spend the rest of our lives defending those titles as if we chose them. Yep. We didn't choose them, right? So This is where I talk about the deprogramming and the unprogramming. We have to, as adults, as people, as human beings, we have to unpack all of that, and we have to work through what we've been taught and decide for ourselves, does that really resonate for me? Is that really true for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is my truth somewhere in there? Yeah. There's a lot here. That's why when I see people reacting angry,
I was like, wow.
That's why I can keep my cool, because like you saw on my Facebook, a lot of people telling me to go back to my country, and, they'd run me over with a car if they saw me. I don't hear all that stuff. And, people got really riled up about it, but I don't hear it. All I'm seeing is I've really triggered you. Why have I triggered you so hard? What about what I'm saying is making you so mad? And that's where I start to go with it,
Yep, absolutely. Like you said, so much here. It just, this is the dialogue that needs to happen. This is the you know what I mean? I think it's people's need to be right that gets in the way of a conversation of acceptance. If you accepted people, like how many people, family members, don't talk no more because one wanted Hillary and one wanted Trump, right? I mean, just simple like division, right? And I don't think one person had anything to do with it. I don't think Obama, Hillary, Trump, none of that. It's not their fault. It's your fault for not reconciling yourself. That's what I think, right? If you're going to unfriend somebody on Facebook because you think that Black Lives Matter is dumb, or your Black Lives Matter, pro whatever, and then people who don't believe it, like, you're so stupid you don't believe in that, and you're going to unfriend somebody, like, you're an intolerant person. I have no time to have a discussion with you because you're so closed-minded. It's not going to go anywhere. I want to have conversations like with you. We're having a conversation, and we can both leave the conversation like we were both heard, and then still believe what we want to believe, but still have the respect for the relationship. And no matter what anybody believes, right? I mean, if you think about it, Middle Eastern countries throw gays off buildings. The end.
Yeah.
So are you going to have a conversation about that? How that's okay?
There's no discussion about that.
You know what I'm saying?
The thing is like I mean, with the whole
talking about, right?
With the whole like unfriending, because people ask me about that, like, Uma, these people are really like harassing me, but I know we're supposed to, and I'm like, no, there's a difference. I'm open to people having opposing views. There are a lot of Trump supporters that are still on my page, and they've told me, they're like, I know I support Trump. I don't know where you stand, because I've never really said, my political affiliation. I don't think that's, anything for anybody's discussion. And they would say to me, I support Trump. I don't know what your affiliation is, but I feel like we're on different sides of this, but I still love your work. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm not attacking your choice. The only time I unfriend people, though, is if they start to attack me. And even when people attack me, I give them like the benefit of the doubt. And I say, look, we're not going to go there and whatever. And then, like if they start to get ridiculous, like I had one woman that wrote on my wall 26 times, Jeez. So when you get to like that kind of behavior where it's just now erratic and hurtful, then you get blocked, then you get unfriended. And if you're constantly posting things that are about hate or divisiveness, then you'll get unfriended. Absolutely. But people are welcome. I have people on my page that still believe in the all lives matter, even though I'm Black Lives Matter. And, either they scroll past what I write or they comment on posts that they feel comfortable commenting on. I'm okay with that. But when people try to come to me and say, this is my viewpoint, you need to listen. No, I'm an adult. I pay taxes. I'm good. I will listen to your opinion one time, and then, that's that. I'm really interested. So we do have
definitely need to have more conversations, and people need to be heard, and we definitely need to have conversations. I mean, there are literally now laws that have been in place that said that racism is bad and sexism is bad and gender discrimination is bad, and like the whole thing. Like, it's always not been okay to deny somebody because of their race, because of their sex, because of their religion, because of their whatever, right? But there's no law against discriminating somebody against their feelings or their beliefs, because that's what they are. They're your feelings. I don't have to share your feelings. I don't have to share in your belief system. You do you, and I'll do me. But it never, ever is okay for you to hurt somebody over their beliefs. That's the difference. Yeah. We can disagree on everything, but it's never okay to hurt somebody verbally, emotionally, physically, mentally over their beliefs. That just shows that you're an intolerant asshole. That's it.
Very well said. Eloquently said.
But, awesome. We got to wrap. We're going to go forever.
Yeah, let's wrap.
So where can somebody find you? Where do you want the listeners to go? And how can they get a hold of you?
They can find me on Facebook, of course. Uma Alexandra Beepat on Facebook. You can find me there. You can find me at my website, www.thelotusandthelight.com. You can email me, info@thelotusandthelight.com. I know Sean's going to put all this information. But, I'm here. I'm doing work. I'm an activist. I do work for that. I'm also a spiritual teacher and mentor. So I do work on that end. I'm just constantly working in doing my part in trying to change the world one person at a time, getting people to open up to these hard conversations, getting people to just be more open about the fact that we are multicultural, and we have to be open to the differences in our cultures, and be just full space about it. So, I welcome the community.
I love what you got going on. I love, everything about you. You're just such an amazing person of light. And I just feel really comfortable in the space that you create. I don't know if you know that. You create a space, a warming space, if you will. Your voice and the way you the way you talk, your mannerisms, everything about that just creates the space that it is okay to be me here in this conversation between you and I, right? Or in any, some people that you talk to, you may not feel that way. You're like, this person I don't feel like they're listening, and I have conversations with a lot of people, but for you, I mean, you and I have had a lot of conversations over the past, year and a half. And every time it's a welcoming conversation. It's a warm space. It's a welcoming space. And you just bring that to the table, which I think is rare, today. So thank you for that. And thank you for being an amazing guest on Life Transformation Radio.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me.
Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around her. If anything resonated with our conversation today on Life Transformation Radio with me and my guest, Uma Alexandra Beepat, please connect with her. Send her a friend request on your favorite social media platform. Send her a friend request letting her know that you listened to her episode of Life Transformation Radio. As we close, I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.